The world is advancing fast in technology and robots could put many people out of a job. We often hear people learn coding to future-proof themselves. But what if we know a few skills that humans will always do better in? These skills will help us to thrive at work no matter what technology changes lie ahead. In fact, these skills are valued by companies today and none of them are actually related to coding.
Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, and this is my first book review where I summarize the key ideas of books that can help us at work. Today we're going to talk about Deep Human by Crystal Lim-lange and Dr. Lim-lange. It's about the practical super skills for a future of success. In a future of disruption and artificial intelligence, we need to double down on our social and emotional capabilities to stay relevant. Through research, Crystal and Greg found that these are actually future-ready qualities wanted by companies today. After surveying hundreds of corporate leaders, Crystal and Greg have condensed them into the top 5 skills that will help us the most. These are abilities that make us fundamentally human and separate us from robots. They are core skills that impact our performance the most. Hence, they are called deep human super skills. We first learn what disruption means to our jobs and what we can do about it. Not all jobs would be equally disrupted. It depends on the job's required level of emotional intelligence and how much it's based on optimization. Jobs that require creativity and high emotional intelligence like marketing and project managers are in the safe zone because humans are always needed. But jobs like driving and cleaning are in the danger zone because they can be fully programmed. Most of us watching this video aren't in this zone but are somewhere in between. We still need doctors and teachers with the human touch who know how to use machines. And jobs that are still too complex to code, like research analysts and economists, like myself, are in the slow creep sector as they will slowly but surely be taken over by AI. Instead of viewing advancing technology as a competitor of our jobs, we can see it as robots freeing us from our mundane tasks. In response, we should focus on our social and emotional capabilities, which are actually our unfair advantages over robots. Some of us may find ourselves lacking in these skills, but the good news Crystal and Greg bring is that these can be learned over time through practice because of neuroplasticity. This means that as we practice something, the nerves of that part of the brain lights up and forms new neural connections over time, so we get better at it. The first deep human super skill is the ability to pay attention and be mindful. The more data points we can gather in our minds, the more mindful we are. Mindfulness is maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environments. One way we can train our brain is through mindfulness practice. Simply follow this for 1 minute. First, choose a point of focus. It can be anything like your breath. Then, tell yourself what you notice about it as detailed as possible. And when you notice your mind is distracted about something else, gently bring it back to your focus point. When I first did this exercise, I felt my mind wander off and I had to bring it back to my breath a few times. Mind wandering is fairly common. A study found that human minds wander about half of the time. A practical example is to mindfully listen to somebody at work. While listening to that person, we may notice our minds drifting off to something else, but we can gently bring it back to the speaker. As we train our mind, we can increase our focus, and this actually also helps to build a base for the next few skills. The next super skill is self-awareness. There are 4 selves in us which we can do mindfulness exercises on by choosing them as the point of focus. By deeply sensing them, we can seek self-improvement in each area. The first self is our mind. It contains our core beliefs about ourselves which are formed in our upbringing and culture. The second self is our emotions, which is how we feel. We should also be aware of the amygdala hijacked and its triggers. It refers to an intense emotional moment which shuts down the rational part of the brain and causes you to react very strongly. It is a natural response that helps our ancestors survive when there is intense danger, such as running away from a tiger or something. Being aware of when we are getting triggered is key so that we can intervene before it's too late. Otherwise, we might end up with an emotional move that we might regret later. The third self is our body, which is our physical needs. Our body needs sleep,
exercise, and diet, so having high self-awareness of our body will lead us to provide these needs. And the fourth self is our spirit. It refers to having a clear sense of what you bring to this world.
It's not about religion, but rather it's about how do you know if your life is meaningful. To check on this, do the What Really Matters exercise by ranking the importance of the few things that matter to us and measure that against the time that we actually spend on them and adjust as needed. The third skill is empathy, and it is the ability to connect with people. In a robotic world, people skilled in empathy will always be in high demand because it makes people feel good.
We can express empathy in 5 steps. The first step is to adopt an open body language. Make eye contact to signal that we are listening and practice putting our mobile phones away to give our full attention. Second, listen. This uses cognitive empathy to read how a person is thinking or feeling, and there are various levels of listening from selective listening to empathetic listening, which is to pay deep attention, looking for the true meaning behind what the other person is saying. Practice this by rating yourself at where you are on the listening scale after your next conversation. The third step is to recognize the emotion. This empathy is triggered in our brains called the mirror neuron system. Basically, when we see someone experience feelings, we can also feel them.
We can practice emotional empathy by labeling our emotions using more specific words. For example, instead of just usually saying I feel good or I feel happy, consider whether you are actually feeling refreshed, relieved, excited or curious. Using a wider vocabulary helps us to describe our feelings and of others more accurately, and that helps to make others feel understood.
The fourth and fifth step is to make a verbal and action response. It uses the third type of empathy called compassionate empathy, which is a desire to help others after seeing and sensing their experience. This can be a simple gesture like offering a cup of water or asking caring questions.
Empathy engages our heart, mind, values, and body like the 4 selves that we talked about earlier. It's a fundamental way of connecting human to human. The fourth deep human super skill is complex communication. Chatbots can handle the basic stuff like giving yes or no or automated answers, but what humans can do better is to give good feedback and to handle conflict.
And our method of giving feedback draws from quite a few feedback models, but we've added something that's different to it. It's called Spiffy.
We can give better feedback using this model. First, make one specific call out to a situation, as people can only usually take one critical comment at a time. Second, focus on the behaviors or actions and stay clear of judging statements. Third, lighten the impact by using I feel statements instead of everyone felt. Use the phrase it seems like in front of a sentence so that people are less likely to feel attacked.
Because it's conveying to the other person that it's not a judgment, it's just how I interpreted it. Imagine if I said, you weren't paying attention. The other person could say, yes, I actually was paying attention. But if you say, it seemed to me like you didn't pay attention, then it's much harder to argue with that because that's how your experience was of the situation.
Instead of just giving suggestions, ask a question to let the person reflect on what the person can do better in future.
You don't want to just be giving people the answers all the time. You also want them to do some work and some reflection.
Yeah, and also research has shown that if they are coming up with solutions themselves, they're much more likely to stick to them and own them rather than being told what they have to do.
And finally, end the feedback by reminding the person about a shared goal. This helps to make the feedback stick.
Because our brains are wired for safety, and sharing a goal makes us feel safe. A famous workplace study by Google found that the most important factor of successful teams is psychological safety. In complex situations, some feedback may not be enough and conflicts may arise. By answering these 3 questions repeatedly, it can diffuse an intense moment, especially when a person is undergoing an amygdala hijack. Oprah Winfrey interviewed nearly 30,000 people on her show, and here's what she learned about all arguments.
All of your arguments are really about the same thing. It's about, did you hear me? Did you see me? And did what I say mean anything to you? That's what everything's about.
Robots won't be able to do that, so having a conflict resolution skill is valuable in solving complex problems at the workplace. The 4 super skills work best if we develop the last skill, which is adaptive resilience. It is our ability to keep going when work gets challenging. The opposite of this is to give up because of a single bad experience, like 33% of workers in a survey who quitted their jobs within 90 days.
There are 5 mindsets of adaptive resilience we can choose to have. The first is the growth mindset. It is a state of mind that believes that if you put in effort, you can grow and overcome this. The opposite is a fixed mindset which says that I cannot do this.
According to Professor Carol Dweck, who founded this theory, she says that we're not always in the growth or fixed mindset. Certain triggers can flip us either way, so we need to constantly remind ourselves to be in a growth mindset.
The second mindset is curiosity. It is the gap between what you know and what you want to know.
The corporate leaders whom the authors worked with agree that curiosity is one of the most sought-after mindsets in new hires. Studies show that curiosity is linked to better job performance. To enhance our curiosity, try doing one new activity a week.
The third mindset is to approach what you already know with a beginner's mind. It's about making new connections again on the same old path.
To practice this, challenge yourself to see one new thing about something or someone you already know very well.
The fourth mindset is not to judge ourselves. When we have judging thoughts like, I'm angry,
practice this by inserting I notice in front of a judging thought. Doing this makes us less judgmental of ourselves.
The fifth mindset is to care for ourselves.
When we have a friend who shares a setback with us, we reach out with empathy. But when bad things happen to ourselves, having self-compassion means to treat ourselves like how we would to a friend in need. We can do this by putting a hand on our chest to calm ourselves down and say, that was intense, but I'll be alright. So after reading this book and doing the exercises, I feel like I'm more in control of myself. I do believe that machines will eventually take over some of our jobs, but they won't take over the entire world. Plus, not everyone can be a programmer, and I'm personally not into it. So the message of this book is a relief to me. If you're not a programmer and you're worried about your job, I hope this book helps you. Actually, one of the reasons why I picked up this book is because my first manager told me that I really lack EQ, and I've been looking to learn how to improve. So this book really helps me to believe that if I work on these deep human practices, I can grow my EQ over time. So I will always have a job in future to work with humans.
Thank you for watching till the end, and let me know what you think in the comments below. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please let me know the topic and I'll see you in my next video.